Okay, so this is our first panel of the day. I'm going to invite, oh, these chairs are nice and comfortable. I'm going to invite, slightly different to yesterday, which were comfortable too. Right, I'm going to invite all our panelists to the stage. Saed Arar, Executive Director, just walk onto the stage, and Head of Traditional Infrastructure Investments at Mubadala. Faizal Kotikollon, Founder and Chairman of KEF Holdings. Rola Manneh, CEO of Standard Chartered UAE. We've got Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal, Member of Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, the Government of India. He's virtual. I hope he's there. Sanjeev,
yes,
are you there?
Yes, I am.
He'll be there. And
yes, I am here.
Oh, the wonders of technology. We can do Mars, so we can certainly do India. And Sanjay Nayar, Chairman of Sovereign Investments. Big round of applause for our panelists. Right, great to see you all. We're just going to go round the house, as they say. Tell us the importance of this wonderful relationship between India and the UAE. What makes that relationship so special?
First of all, good morning, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the day, and I do apologize for my voice. I've been cheering for Morocco in the Portugal-Morocco game, so if you hear some strange squeaks, please don't be concerned. It's just my voice going cuckoo.
Is Morocco, do you think, happy that they'll be playing Argentina in the final, or would Morocco have preferred Croatia? I wanted Croatia to win, but Messi's a genius.
Let them win France today, and then we'll figure out.
Then we'll worry about it tomorrow.
We'll worry about it tomorrow.
Exactly.
Look, I think the relationship between the UAE in general and India is extremely special. You've heard it from Her Excellency, from His Excellency about, and the ambassador. It's been there for centuries. The two cultures clashes in every good way that we can explain. Business is growing on both sides. I think there is more that can be done. Especially on the infrastructure side. As you may know, or to the people who experience the infrastructure in the UAE, it's pretty robust. I think on the Indian side, there is a lot of work to be done. We as Mubadala have been lucky to have started some of our investments there on the infrastructure side. And we've done also investments on the retail side. So while these relationships have been there for centuries, it started with initial types of trade, but now we're moving into different levels of investments, of collaboration, and I think there is much more to be done as we go forward.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a bit more about what you're doing and look at some of the trends which I know are grabbing everyone's attention. Faizal, how do you see things? How do you describe the relations, including economic relations, between the UAE and India?
Good morning, everyone. So thank you for inviting me. I'm going to narrate an incident yesterday evening. I met a Emirati, very important gentleman, and I was sitting with him having dinner, and I asked him about his life when he was growing up. So he said his father used to live in front of the creek, and there was an old bank called British Bank of Middle East. Now it's called HSBC. Yeah. So he used to, his father used to take him for a walk in the morning. At those days, they used to follow the father. And he used to go to a shop in front of the bank, and he used to transact money, give money, take money, and he sees that regularly happening. So he was around 16, 17, and he asked, why, Dad, you are transacting money with this Indian gentleman? And he said, no, I'm not doing any business with him. And it's a real story. And he said, no, I keep my savings with this gentleman in this trader in a shop. And he said, there's a bank just opposite. Why don't you go and deposit there? He said, no, my father used to keep the money with his father, as a deposit of the savings. So that is a kind of a relationship, which UAE and Indian population had, and centuries ago, as people said. And that is the comfort feeling, a person who doesn't want to put the money in the bank, but he trusts an Indian person who is not at all related to him. So I think the key thing is the trust and the familiarity Mrs. Reem Hashimy mentioned. And I think this continuing, I've been here for 28 years now. and I feel at home. This is for me home. I go to India every 10 days, but we can't make a difference between India and UAE, and I think that is the beauty of these two nations.
Yeah. Sanjeev, how do you see it? What's the beauty of the relationship from the lens that I know you often look through, that economic and that trade lens?
All of you for giving me the opportunity to speak to all of you. The relationship between the Gulf and the UAE specifically and India is very old. You may not realize this, it goes back to the Bronze Age, 5,000 years of this. And there is archaeological evidence of Indian traders from Gujarat, from Bronze Age sites like Dholavira coming to trade in this region, going back 5,000 years. So absolutely what everybody else said, this is a very old relationship of trade and finance. Even into living memory, the Indian rupee was widely used as the currency in this part of the world. So it's an old relationship and of trust. And of course, as everybody says, this is to do with trade and finance, and more recently with investment going in both directions. But I think the interesting thing is looking ahead. As you just heard, we are now moving into looking to relationships in the areas of science and technology, areas where maybe traditionally we were not as close, but I think this is an area where we are, as you heard, sending Imarti satellite to space, to building the next generation of startups, creating global standards is something that we should be aspiring to do. For far too long, this part of the world has taken Western standards as being the standards. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There are areas where that should be the case. But I think as the Indian Ocean rim becomes a more and more important part of the world, we need to aspire to be able to set global conversations, global standards. And so technology is one area, geostrategic areas, as you talked about, I2U2 as well, as an area where we will collaborate. So this is really a much more deeper relationship that is emerging. This is not to suggest that it's not based on very old roots, but I think there are things that we can aspire to do, both in India and in the UAE today, that we could not have imagined doing a few decades ago. We are both more important. Our place in the world is growing, and I think the time has come that we should be able to box at our own weight, so to speak, and punch at our own, something that the Indian Ocean world has, in some ways, not been doing. And, the Indian Ocean world does need to be able to speak for itself in the same breath as the Atlantic, particularly the North Atlantic, and the Pacific, which have, of course, become the theater of global commerce, of global conversations. And I think the Indian Ocean world now needs to stand up and take its rightful place in the world. And of course, the relationship between India and the UAE will be a cornerstone of that emergence of the Indian Ocean world.
Yeah. What about you, Rola? We heard about HSBC, but another long-standing bank with a wonderful heritage is Standard Chartered. How do you see those relations between India and the UAE?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be here today. I think it's an honor. Definitely, when I look at the UAE-India relationship historically and where it is now, it has really grown from strength to strength over the last few decades. And if we look back in the 70s, the bilateral trade was around $180 million, and today it is exceeding $72 billion. So that tells a lot in terms of the cooperation, the mutual agreements, and this puts the UAE the largest trading partner after US and China for India. And if we look at the sectors, it's been in finance, education, technology, infrastructure, and many more to come. And it's all culminated by under the SEPA agreement, where you've had previous all mutual trade agreements, bilateral and MOU agreements, all brought it down with the SEPA agreement, which has been executed by the leaderships of both countries. Now, for Standard Chartered, this is right bang in because we have deep roots in India for over 100 years, and similarly in our parts of the world, in the Middle East and in the UAE, over 63 years. So it's very natural that we know both countries, and this is where we would capitalize serving our clients in both these regions.
Thank you very much. Sanjay, how do you see things?
Yeah, I think you've had a lot of discussion about the love fest, which is great. I think I want to come to the point. I think India needs capital and investments from this part of the world. I would not use the word desperately, but definitely needs significant pools of capital, which the UAE has. We've seen, obviously, the Mubadalas and other quasi-sovereigns coming into India, testing the waters. I think the way forward, frankly, is for India to seize the moment here and seize the relationship that is obviously so warm. And I would say invite FDI from this part of the world. India needs FDI, and I think for the UAE, there is probably no better destination than India to put money to work in renewables, in obviously the whole effort on climate finance, infrastructure. And remember, we have a pretty aggressive national monetization plan, which our Honorable Finance Minister had unveiled in 21. And there's a lot of interesting assets that can be structured and bundled and attract very attractive capital at attractive returns. So I think really, from my perspective, I would say, mutuality is great, but I think India needs the FDI. UAE has deep pools of capital and net savings. And frankly, there can be no better counterparty than India for UAE to put money to work.
Saed, Sanjay was talking to you. India needs FDI. You're one of the regions, you are one of the region's biggest sovereign wealth funds, of course. You have a presence in India. You're investing in India. What are the opportunities that you're seeing? Where are you investing? How are you putting money into the nation?
Yeah, I think, first of all, any sovereign wealth fund, in my view, that does not have a presence in India would be making a bit of a mistake. The reason is, simply put, in terms of the world's population, we're beyond the 8 billion today as a global population. 1.3 billion are in India, so we're more than 1/8 of the world's population, and hence that just shows demand on every bit of the spectrum. If you're referring to infrastructure, you're referring to retail, you're referring to fintech banks, so it touches everything. Mubadala has been able to, mainly over the last couple of years, to be able to deploy almost $4 billion in India, out of which I can proudly say that the platform I represent, which is infrastructure, we've been able to deploy circa $2 billion. And we're looking really forward to be able to have more presence, especially in certain opportunities that are, as Sanjay said, required in India, right? For example, India depends on its power generation still heavily on coal. We know that this is going to be phased out with time, hence renewable investments in the renewables is extremely important. We, as Mubadala, have invested in Tata Renewables alongside with our partner BlackRock. And we're so excited about that investment, and we hope that we can do much more. We're looking at the road platforms. We're currently in the process of maybe closing a deal in the road platforms business. On the digital side, we've invested in geotechnologies, almost a 1.2, one of Mubadala's most significant investments in India. And again, that is it's a very significant investment that just displays the trust that we have in India, the ambition that we have to further invest in India, and there are certain select segments that are very promising, and we would hope to be able to continue doing that. There's two things that I just would like to add, and that is, as I was mentioning in the opening statement, you know, the robustness of infrastructure in the UAE is just lessons learned that we can take back to India. Exactly like His Excellency was referring to, you know, some technologies coming to Abu Dhabi or to the UAE in general. There is things that we can also export to India, and our continuous communication with the air cover of the likes of SEPA definitely adds a lot of value. It opens the horizons for investors like us. It gives us the opportunity to be able to talk with same, similar investment partners in terms of how we think. So just before this, we were talking, me and Faizal, over there in the Majlis, and we were actually talking about the potential opportunity just before entering this session. And it just shows you how much we can do.
Can you tell us about the opportunity? Was that a secret?
No, we'll keep it a secret for the time being. Let's not allow anybody to take it away. So it's like, it's just every time you have a conversation with someone from India and vice versa, you see an opportunity, right? You just have to be smart, tactical, and you have to be able to identify that this opportunity should be mutually beneficial to both parties.
Faizal, tell us about, if not that opportunity, some of the other opportunities which you see.
Yes, I think it's just tip of the iceberg. We just started, with the SEPA agreement. I think basis of all the businesses is the familiarity and trust, and that is where I think this economical development going to happen in the next decades is going to be significant. As Saed said, our basic necessities in India is yet to met. And we are a growing nation. I'm focusing on education, healthcare. So I'm expanding in these two sectors significantly. I made my wealth in UAE. I sold the company to an American corporation. Started my family office in the IFC, and now what we invested in India since 2012 is a turn of $250 million in these two sectors. And it's significantly grown because it's a huge demand in every sector you take it, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's ports, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education. And we are growing at north of 8 to 10%, and it's continued to grow. There's no stopping India in the next decades, and I think the world is recognized that we were limping in the last decades, and I think the acceleration is picked up. And I think that is where I think UAE also recognize it's a huge potential, correct? So, and I think this is going to be a significant relationship and partnership in the next 2 decades, I would suppose.
Yeah. Tell us, Sanjeev, from where you're sitting in a different place, but it's lovely hearing your perspective. Where do you see the prime opportunities in this relationship?
I mean, thanks to SEPA, and also now for some time we have been working on absorbing investments into infrastructure and so on. These have now become reasonably almost routinized, so to speak. So that's a good thing, because it allows us then to build onto these newer areas. And we had discussed earlier technology, space technology of all things, but this also is true of getting into high technology and medical sector, in many areas of next generation application tools. So the point is, we need to move up the value chain. And the UAE is a good partner for that in multiple ways. There's obviously a large Indian population that lives there and works in many of these sectors. So there's already a personal relationship, but this is about more than that. I mean, as I said, creating a laboratory here for new generation technology. So we have been in this part of the world follower to the large extent. I mean, the odd technology may have been invented from this part of the world in the last few decades, but by and large, we are absorbers of technologies that emanate mostly from the West, but to some extent also now from East Asia. But I think we need to move up the value chain into investing into capabilities of being at the frontier. I think that is the aspiration we have. And of course, the UAE is a partner in that endeavor. So I think that is where I think the really interesting story will be. Of course, the traditional areas of trade and investment, particularly in infrastructure, remains. But I think many of those things, as I said, have now, in a sense, tried and tested. So it's really the exciting areas or the new areas that we will explore that we want to move into, where we can provide the global leadership. And of course, here there is, for the next 1 year, India will be holding the presidency of the G20. We will be in a position in some ways to bring up global conversations in which, of course, the UAE will be a participant. And I think that would be an important part of taking this forward. Because, as I said, we need to aspire to being, punching our own weight, which we have historically not done.
Yeah. Before I go to Rola, I just want to ask my director, because I don't have the clock in front of me. This is the secrets, by the way, of conference hosting. You've got an earpiece, and they're shouting in my ear the whole time. They're not right now, actually. It's very peaceful. But normally we have a clock. But of course, I've got our wonderful virtual guests. So how long do we have left of the panel? You can speak in my ear. 8 minutes. Thank you very much. 8 minutes to go. We've got enough time. Tell us about the industries. We've heard about some of the sectors, Rola, which will benefit infrastructure, technology, to name but a few. Which other industries do you see the most significant growth happening within this economic corridor between the two nations?
Well, I think the most impactful ones, which the CEPA agreement has helped a lot, is the service industries. And if you look within the service, you have the contracting, the gold and jewelry, the pharmaceutical, the real estate, hospitality, and the technology. And definitely we've already seen the large FDIs into India, which is around 17 to 18 billion, which my colleague Saed has alluded to some of them. And it makes the UAE in number 9 in terms of investments in India. But when we go back onto the services, the two winners really were the pharmaceutical and the gold and jewelry, because in the exports into the UAE, if we look at the tax, its duty tax is 5%, so it makes it competitive. At the same time, if we look at the pharmaceuticals, for the first time, I think now you have Indian medicine that, in terms of approval and to the shelf in a short span of 90 days. So these are things that really help promote the dialogue and the international bilateral trade between both countries.
Sanjay, how do you see the economic corridor?
I think we already spoke earlier about what I think is the top priority, according to me, still remains attracting infrastructure and FDI capital to India. But having said that, I think two other areas we should think about hard is how to inculcate the startup culture in India even more, and attracting risk capital again from this part of the world, which has been traditionally overweighted on the West. I think should look at Indian startups much more seriously. Not only that, I think a lot of business models coming out of India can be applicable to the UAE. So there's kind of a mutual benefit in not only attracting capital and for UAE to look at Indian startup entrepreneurs, but also to try and develop models that can be applicable to the UAE. I think the second thing we haven't spoken about is developing resilience on supply chains. I mean, we talk a lot of supply chain resilience we need in India. I think the world needs it. But again, UAE and India can partner, I can think, in many ways to create the resiliency between the two. We do have some manufacturing going on here. There's not much happening in India, at least from the UAE perspective. But the way to think about certain sectors, whether it's pharma, some of the intermediaries, but there are many methods and I think ways of putting our minds together to create more supply chain resiliency as we face kind of a new world order right now.
Okay, audience, time to engage. You're getting a bit too comfortable. Come on, let's have some questions. We've got about 5 minutes. So who would like to, I'm going to take my glasses off and start scouring the room. Who would like to ask a question? Come on, be brave. Otherwise, I'm going to point at one. Gentlemen, perfect. We'll bring you a microphone. Tell us who you are and fire a question our way.
It's wonderful to have it here. Good morning to everybody, and pleasure to listen all those inputs that we can we hear from all the gentlemen here. My question is that what about the food security? I mean, is there anything, any specific sectors or any new thoughts coming on that area between UAE and India?
Who would like to be brave?
I can take that if nobody's picking it up. So, look, as you rightly mentioned, I think this is a great question because food security is becoming a problem for everybody. I just mentioned the population growth, not only in India, but around the world. And we need to find a solution for that that is, at the same time, ESG friendly. Right? So there's a lot of agriculture that's going on around the world, raising of cattle, plantations, that somehow are also contributing towards the, to the more production of CO2 around us. So there is a huge opportunity for the UAE and India to work together in finding agricultural solutions that will enhance food security on both sides and export it to the world. That is also ESG friendly. So we already have in the UAE technologies, and in Abu Dhabi there are some startups looking at vertical planting of vegetation and fruits. And I'm sure that in India there are a lot of similar technologies or similar approaches to these kind of things. And dialogue is definitely important to make sure that we can touch on all of our strengths and fill each other's gaps. Definitely this is something that the UAE would look at, and I would encourage anybody within this audience, if you have an idea on food security, to raise it, as I will definitely be able to guide you in the right manner to meet the right people within the UAE.
And in just a minute, actually, we're going to hear from Her Excellency Mariam Al-Mariri on food security. So what a brilliant question, sir. Thank you very much. Got a couple of minutes? Yes, gentleman at the front. Just wait for the microphone. We want to be able to hear your dulcet tones. It's just coming up. Tell us who you are and what's your question.
Hi, good morning. My name is Amit Zutri. I run a small venture capital firm in Dubai that's focused on early stage tech investments in India. So that's where I'm coming from, and just picking up from where Sanjay talked about technology investments in India. Question particularly, I guess, for you, Saed, as part of Mubadala. Sure. To what extent is Mubadala really could potentially be throwing its weight behind early stage tech investments in India, and particularly the kind that could come back into the country and the region?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Abu Dhabi because I know that market very well. I will touch upon Dubai a little bit, but do excuse me, I'm not an expert in Dubai that much. So in Abu Dhabi, as you might know, the government has already established what we call Hub 71, and Mubadala is like godfathering that kind of initiative. Now, in Hub 71, you would see that there is a lot of startups that are coming. They have some type of subsidy from the government to get them started. And what Mubadala does is actually start connecting the dots with different people and different entrepreneurs to come into those startups and raise funding for those entities. Now, I'm not sure how many of those are Indian startups, but I'm pretty sure that there is definitely a few there. Now, and Dubai has a very similar approach. Now, how do we take this back and forth, and how do we work on both sides? I think we need, because they are tech startups, we need to also leverage on the technology that we're referring to. And that is, a startup in Abu Dhabi or a startup in New Delhi or Mumbai can easily integrate due to the technology that we have and the platform that we have. Her Excellency was talking about COVID and the learnings that we get from COVID. I mean, the most important learning from COVID is actually technology works, right? So being able to connect both capital cities with technology, startup being here or there, it's that dialogue again that we need to see happening under the umbrella of the embassy. If there are startups in India that would like to come over, let's have that dialogue and let's have that conversation, and vice versa happens. But I think it's easier now to leverage this Before it was disconnected, I would say, but now with everything happening, I think it's easier said than done. There is an abundance of cash, right? There is no lack of cash in the world. It's, again, finding the right opportunity. Again, as I said earlier, being smart, being tactical, and mutually beneficial for both sides. So once again, I encourage that anybody that wants to build that bridges from a technology perspective is to visit the Hub 71, to visit the similar entity that is in Dubai, and to start the dialogue. And we're more than happy to facilitate that as Mubadala if it comes to the Abu Dhabi side.
I want to bring you something really special. I want to introduce Her Excellency Mariam Al-Mariri. We're just going to hear a little piece from Her Excellency, who of course is Minister of Climate Change and Environment here in the UAE. Just listen to this and watch this.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to address you today. I thank India Incorporated Group for inviting me to be part of this high-level forum. The UAE and India enjoy long-standing and cordial relations across multiple fronts, and this forum is making its mark in pushing our bilateral relations to a new level. First, let me take this opportunity to congratulate India on its presidency of the G20. The UAE is committed to working with India in confronting international challenges across multiple sectors to achieve a balanced and sustainable global economic growth. Earlier this year, the UAE and India signed a landmark comprehensive economic partnership agreement which came into force in May 2022. As part of this free trade agreement, both countries aim to boost their bilateral trade from the current $60 billion to $100 billion in the next 5 years. Key sectors that will benefit from this trade agreement include agriculture, oil and gas, petrochemicals, minerals, and textiles. The UAE and India share so much more than just economic synergies. Strong cultural and people-to-people ties unite our countries, as do our shared values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence. More than 3.5 million Indians call the UAE their home away from home. Both countries are committed to meaningful partnerships across spheres. This includes our collaboration on enhancing food security at home and globally. A prime example of this is the India-UAE Food Corridor that will incorporate state-of-the-art, climate-smart technology to sustainably increase yields. The initiative has the potential to triple the food trade between the UAE and India in 5 years and benefit as many as 2 million farmers across various Indian states. India has officially joined the Mangrove Alliance for Climate, a government-led initiative between the UAE and Indonesia, which was launched at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh last month. Partnerships like these not only help in the restoration and conservation efforts, but also enhance nature-based solutions towards a sustainable future. Such synergies are crucial to face the growing global food insecurity that is being driven by political conflict, climate change, and the economic slowdown. We must work together with a renewed resolve to transform the current food systems across the globe and put the world back onto track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 2, Zero Hunger. In the UAE, we have always believed that innovation should be at the front and center of our food system transformation. We have set an ambitious goal for ourselves to position our country as a global hub for innovation-driven food security and a premier exporter of climate-smart agtech solutions. With that goal in mind, we are currently developing a groundbreaking agricultural project that aims to serve as a testbed for pioneering agricultural solutions. Once complete, the Food Tech Valley will provide researchers, entrepreneurs, startups, and the industry experts with all the facilities they need to develop innovative, clean tech-based agricultural solutions that will revolutionize the food industry. We invite scientists, engineers, producers, investors, and other relevant stakeholders from around the world, and especially from India, to set up their base in our Food Tech Valley. This initiative, as well as many others, show that the UAE has become a premier convener of major players from across the food system value chain to explore sustainable approaches for the agricultural sector. We are keen to share our experience with our partners and to work with other countries to address the critical challenges of our food systems. We enjoy robust collaborations with Indian businesses and entities operating in the UAE that I am happy to say have proven to be great supporters of government-led programs. The leading retail chain, Lulu Hypermarkets, promotes locally grown fresh produce in its vast network of stores, and IFCO, the food manufacturing giant, has made considerable contributions to the UAE's food security. And just a few days ago, I had the pleasure of attending the opening of a new facility for Jaleel Holdings, one of the major Indian investment companies based in the UAE. The massive facility offers advanced storage solutions for fresh food and will go a long way in supporting a sustainable supply chain and marketing homegrown produce. We look forward to expanding our collaboration with these companies and more to develop our food industry. Ladies and gentlemen, food security concerns all nations of the world, and we all need to join forces to harness the full potential of partnerships to tackle the relevant challenges. Let's work together to create new opportunities for collaboration between our two nations to enhance food security and transform our food systems and industry. And of course, this is also an important point as we work towards COP28, which we'll be hosting here in the United Arab Emirates next year. Thank you.
Thank you to Her Excellency Mariam Al-Mareri there, and thank you to our virtual panelists. Thank you, and to our physical panelists as well. Big round of applause to them. You may all leave the stage. We are having another panel now, so just relax. We're going to go straight into our next panel. It's going to be seamless, it's going to be fluid, it's going to be brilliant. So let's move it straight on to our next discussion. Thank you very much, Sanjeev. Great to see you. We'll see you soon. Thank you for your participation in our opening panel on the India Global Forum.